Hi, this is Mark by Mark A. Foster, Ph.D. for the Maoist Third Worldist Collective. Let me begin this podcast with a qualification. What I am saying are my own thoughts. Well, that should be obvious. But I don't want anyone to think that this is the Maoist Third Worldist perspective on autism. It obviously is not. It's just my own thinking. There is no Maoist third worldist perspective on autism, as far as I know. Maoism third worldism consists of a number of individuals who call ourselves Maoist third worldists. And to make that kind of jump from my own approach to autism, saying, well, this is the Maoist perspective on autism, or this is the Maoist third worldist perspective on autism, that would be really, really foolish. So I am not making that claim at all. It is how I understand autism through my own lens of Maoism third worldism, and only my own lens. That is it. I have already made a podcast on autism from my own Maoist third worldist standpoint. So in a way, this is a follow-up to that earlier video. I will basically be mentioning some things I did not mention previously. I'm not sure if it's because I had too much to say back then, didn't want to make that video too confusing, or because I simply forgot to mention certain things. I guess either or both of those might be true. Regardless, here's what I wanted to say now. If we think of autistics overall as being a category of the subaltern or a category of the fourth world, and I personally use those two terms interchangeably, fourth world and subaltern. Subaltern, a term that was used in a Marxist context originally by the Italian Marxist Antonio Gramsci. If I do that, if I think of autism as a type of the third world, a type of the fourth world, or a type of the subaltern, what I am saying is that I think that autistics are generally marginalized. Not only are autistics marginalized, but we also experience that marginalization largely because of things within us. That is not always the case. There are people who are marginalized not because of their own neurology or their own behavior, but because of who they are, because of their race, because of their gender, because of their caste, because of their whatever, some category that was assigned to them, not by themselves, but by others. In the case of autistics, the marginalization occurs primarily because autistics are neurodivergent, meaning our neurology diverges from the norm, from the neurodivergent norm, the neurological norm, I should say. So our difference is a bit different than what is usually seen as being different. Sorry for the play on words. It is for that reason, because I believe that autistics are generally subaltern or fourth world, that I believe that autism should be eliminated. Does that mean I'm talking about eliminating the people? No, of course not. Not the people. I'm not suicidal. I don't want to eliminate myself, even though I don't consider myself to necessarily be subaltern or fourth world, because I'm relatively, not only relatively, I'm a successful guy. Relatively would diminish it too much. I am much more successful than most autistics. Why do autistics have such a high unemployment rate? Is it because of their caste? No. It's because autistics have a hard time holding down a job. Why do a disproportionate number of autistics not drive? Same thing. Autistics have a difficult time concentrating on the road. We are often prone to distractions, which would make driving to be dangerous. Now, is that true for all autistics? No. I think I'm a good driver. My father, who was also a diagnosed autistic like myself, was also a good driver until he developed dementia toward the end of his life, the last 2 years of his life. Then he had 3 accidents in 1 week, and he was no longer able to drive, regrettably, because driving was something that both he and I love. We both enjoyed driving immensely, and I felt really, really bad for him that he could no longer drive, because I felt as though, well, he is now going to be a prisoner of his home. In fact, that turned out not to be entirely true, because shortly thereafter, he ended up going to an assisted living facility. But that aside, autistics, in addition to that, have a low rate of marriage. Now, is that because autistics are generally ugly? No. Is that because autistics have the label autistic and people walk around with a T-shirt that says autistic on it, and somebody turns around and says, I'm not going out with this person. This person is an autistic. I can see it on their T-shirt, or I can see it on their hat. Obviously, that's not true. Autistics have a low rate of marriage, and in that, I would include myself. I have never been married. When I was younger, I wanted to get married, but was simply unable to. I could not find a woman that was attracted to me. At this point in my life, do I think that would still be the case? No. But I'm 67 years old. I have spent my lifetime as a single person. Imagining myself being married is impossible. I simply can't conceive of it. What would it be like to have somebody living with me in my condo? I don't think I'd like it. I like living alone. Now, if I had been in a different state of mind, a different neurological state of mind when I was younger, maybe then I could have gotten married and adjusted myself to it, but it's too late now. I have no plans of getting married, and even if the most attractive woman in the world, whoever that might be, came up to me and said, "Mark, do you want to marry me?" I would politely say, I'm so grateful. I'm so happy that you have made this proposal to me, and I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. But no. Well, I wouldn't say but no, but you get the point. I couldn't do it. I'm too much in a rut. I'm too used to being a single guy. So the reason why, primarily, I would say most autistics, not all, but most, at least most I have known, are in the fourth world or are a part of the subaltern, is not because there is some bigotry against them because of the way that they look or speak or whatever. It's because of a dysfunction in their brains. my brain is not entirely normal. I know that based on EEGs. According to numerous EEGs I've had, I have an abnormality in my left frontal lobe. Now, what that means exactly, I have no idea. I know what it can predispose me to having seizures, but aside from that, I don't know. I don't have seizures, at least not now. I did when I was younger, but I don't anymore. But I suspect that might in some way be a sign of my neurodivergence, of my neurodiversity, the fact that I divert from the norm neurologically, maybe, but I'm not a neurologist. I'm not a physician. I'm a sociologist. I have no idea. I would only be guessing. But I think that's probably true. I think my left frontal lobes being supposedly abnormally shaped or something. I've seen the actual EEGs. I've even seen actual MRIs of my brain, and I can see the spot in my brain in my left frontal lobes, which are not formed properly, and which I assume gives me autism or contributes to my autism. So I know that. I know that my brain is not entirely normal. Okay, so what? Next story. I don't care. I function well now. I did not function well in my youth. I did not function particularly well in my early adulthood, but I function well now. So I really don't care. Whether somebody wants to say, you have a malfunctioning left frontal lobe or not, is irrelevant to me. It's not something that I pay any attention to, unless I'm doing a video like this where I'm compelled to bring back that memory about my malformed left frontal lobe. And believe it or not, despite my attempt at humor, which I realize is probably not that good, I am taking this subject as seriously as I can, because I realize that a lot of autistics are not as fortunate as I am, and they suffer with maladies that I do not suffer with. I was in a Chinese restaurant several years ago with another autistic, and obviously I'm not going to mention who he is, but a guy, a guy much younger than me. And I actually paid for his meal, and I said, you know, somebody once bought me a meal when I was around your age, and he said he was doing it because I want to. I feel as though I should do this for you because you are in a position of relative poverty in relationship to me, and hopefully, when you get older, you will remember what I did and do that for others. And in fact, I always remembered that, and I have done that for many others. Now, I don't want to be a Pied Piper and have a bunch of people follow me in the street asking me for a meal, but certainly in this case, I willingly and happily paid for this person's meal in the Chinese restaurant. My point, however, is not that. My point is that I use chopsticks, and I asked the restaurant server, who was actually a friend of mine as well, because I used to eat there all the time, and we got into some really nice conversations, for chopsticks, and of course she brought them over to me. And then I asked my young friend if he wanted to. His response was, "No, I can't use them because I have poor coordination." And I felt like, well, what do I say to that? Do I say I'm sorry? Well, if I said I'm sorry, I would feel like I was kind of pitying him, and I didn't want to pity him, so I just said, "Oh, okay." That was it. "Oh, okay," with a smile. And then I went on, we talked about other kinds of things. And I think that probably was the correct response given the circumstances. I didn't want to make the person feel awkward or out of place or feel like I was looking down on him. I certainly was not. I admired him tremendously. I admired the work he was doing. I admired his service, and I certainly did not want to make him feel bad. So, why, again, are autistics, or many or most autistics, a part of the fourth world or the subaltern? Well, it's because of our brains, which is not true of everyone in the fourth world or everyone who is subaltern, but I think it is true of us. I can't think of another explanation. If you have one, please leave it in the comments section. You will find it directly below this video, and I will read it. I read all the comments. Why? Because I don't get that many comments. I wish I got more. I wish I got more views as well. I don't get that many views either. Maybe that will change eventually, but for the time being, I don't. But if you have any other ideas, if you disagree with me, fine. I don't care. You can just disagree with me. Just don't troll me. Don't flame me. You know, I'm a sensitive guy. You know, I don't want to be trolled or flamed. Be nice. Be gentle. But you can disagree with me as much as you want, and I will read what you have to say, and I will respond to what you say. I promise. Whatever you say, as long as it is polite, reasonably polite, I will respond to you. This is Mark by Mark A. Foster, Ph.D. Have a pleasant day and an even better day tomorrow.